From the time you were first elected in Congress in 1997 until you completed your 8th term earlier this year, Marty Gelfand stood there with you as your senior counsel and I think maybe MVP of your team. Those of us who had to be in contact with you, Dennis, over the years knew that Marty and other members of the team were only a phone call away. And having been in a business where immediacy and accuracy were very important and were at a premium, I could not have imagined a better response time and time again from you and your team. So that said, let's continue with Mr. Gelfand, who is currently Councilman at Large in South Euclid and is also a generous sponsor of this evening's events. In his new capacity as the principal of his law firm, Gelfand Associates, specializing in government relations. Marty.
Thank you, Dick. It's great to be here. And when when Ken Kovac told me about this, I ran to the front of the line to be here. I just, for 16 years, I stood with Dennis on so many issues, but I'm going to keep it real short and just talk about a couple of immigration issues. Other people that have just as much to say are here. Michael Patterson, Morris Pettis, Luis Gomez, Paige Nofel. I'm not sure if anyone else, if you can stand for just a second. They're part of that team. They can tell just as many stories, but I'm not going to tell a lot of stories. I'm going to tell two. One, it happened almost 10 years ago, December 31st, 2003. And I woke up that morning, didn't have to work that day. And I picked up the paper and there was a story about a woman who, she was of Palestinian origin, but she was born in Venezuela, and she came to this country. She was a victim of domestic violence, and she had 3 kids, and she wanted to stay in this country. And Homeland Security was a new agency. It was feeling its oats, and it was trying to get rid of as many people as possible. And I read the article, and I said, oh, that's too bad, and I put it down, and I went about my day, and Dennis was running for president at the time, so I thought I'd go and help out on the campaign, and I went down to the campaign headquarters over on Lorraine. And as soon as I walked in the door, Dennis was there. He said, Marty, I need you to do something for me. And I said, what is it, Dennis? He said, did you see this article in the Plain Dealer this morning? And I said, oh yeah, I saw that. He said, we need to help her. And, so I said, okay. And that was the end of my day off. And then the next day, we had a press conference scheduled. I wish Joe Benny were here. He was going to be here. I know he had a conflict. He was in Washington. But, Joe had to work the press, and I had to work the agency, and I spent the day, fortunately, the rest of the government wasn't off that day, and I was calling Homeland Security, and I was figuring out who's who and making contact. And, they were going to send her away, I think, like that day, and we were able to keep her here a couple months longer. But during that couple of months, unfortunately, she did have to leave. But during that couple of months, I think that we raised a lot of awareness of how, we know that it was a tragedy what happened on September 11th, and that more needed to be done to protect our security. But the government was picking on people who had nothing to do with that. And I think what Dennis did and what we helped him do is to raise awareness that it's not about some big, larger concept. It was about people. It was about individuals, like that one woman. And, unfortunately she had to leave, but I think because of the awareness that we raised, more people were able to stay. And, one more thing about immigration, and this is one more story. Right around that time, we learned, when people are immigrants, they form communities. And the Cleveland community is made up of so many different communities of immigrants and children of immigrants and grandchildren of immigrants and supporters of people from the country from which people immigrated. And we have a symbol of that. We have a park. It's like Cleveland's Central Park. It's the community. Cultural Gardens, thank you. It's the Cleveland Cultural Gardens. And we got a letter one day from the president of the Cultural Gardens, and he said that the gardens were being threatened because of some environmental work that was being done at the airport. They were going to plow over certain gardens, and they were going to cause to his attention. And he said, yeah, do something about it, make it happen. And I said, well, one thing you need to know, it's in someone else's district. He says, I'll take care of the politics, you take care of the law. We're gonna save those gardens. And we did. And the gardens have grown and expanded. And it's because, when you're a champion of immigration, you help immigrants. But you also help those communities of immigrants to show what they are, who they are. And those cultural gardens in Doe Brook are a symbol of immigration that Dennis Kucinich helped to save, helped to preserve, and through the effort to do that, brought so much awareness of the immigrant community and the nationalities of our community. And so when they said he was going to be the first champion of immigration for the Francis Payne Bolton Champions of Immigration for the ISC, I thought that was great. And I couldn't think of a better person to get that award than Dennis Kucinich.